Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. My dear brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. So this is part 7 of my video lecture on the topic of state territory. And in part 6, I was discussing about the sovereign activities or effectivities. Then what is meant by sovereign activities? What acts constitute sovereign activities? So they are acts of sovereignty. So that's why as you all know, in sovereignty there are 3 important powers: legislative power, administrative power, and judicial power. That's why sovereign activities here mean legislative act, executive act, and judicial acts of a state. So this is very simple. So whenever you have to answer a question on the state territory, then you see what type of sovereign activities are there, whether any legislative acts or any executive act, any judicial act or judicial decision. So examples can be taken from decided cases, and these decided cases are very important for you because you have to refer to these cases to answer problematic questions. The first case is legal status of Eastern Greenland case, Denmark versus Norway. So they are disputing over, they are claiming for Eastern Greenland, and then the court look at the following acts as effectivities or sovereign activities. Number 1, the grant of the trading, hunting, and mining concession. Mining concession. The government grant foreigners or foreign companies any trading, hunting, or mining concession. What type of act is this? This is very clearly executive act. And the concessions granted for the erection of telegraph lines. Foreign companies are granted concessions to erect telegraphic lines in the country, in the territory. So what type of act is this? Executive act again. Third, the legislation fixing the limits of territorial waters applicable to Greenland. So this is what type of act is this? This is very simple. Legislative act. Law-making power, okay, legislative acts. So that's why all these are sovereign activities or effectivities. The next case, Minquius and Acrihos case, France versus UK. So there are 4 points here, 4 sovereign activities here. The first one is the exercise of criminal jurisdiction by Jersey court. Jersey courts mean the courts in Jersey is in UK. So the UK courts, the Jersey courts exercise criminal jurisdiction in respect of the Acrihos during nearly 100 years. What type of act is this? Judicial act. Number 2, inquests on corpses found at the Acrihos were held in Jersey, UK. So, inquests on corpses means inquests are whatever act is that. This is in combination of both executive act and judicial act. Number 3, persons from Jersey have erected habitable houses on the islet. Islet means very small islands of Acrihos, where they have stayed there during the fishing seasons, and these people have been assessed for the levying of local rates. Levying of local rates means tax. According to tax law, they have accept local tax. So it means that UK impose taxation on people from Jersey who are building houses there in these small islands, and they stay there at least during the fishing seasons. What type of act is this? Taxation. Taxation is what type of sovereign act? It is executive act. Number 4, 3 cases of shipwreck at the Minquius dealt with by the court in Jersey. This is very simple. What type of act is this? Judicial act. So all these acts are sovereign activities and they are effectivities. And because of that, all the acts are in UK. UK did all these sovereign activities when the court decided that UK, the islands belong to UK. Another case, sovereignty over Pulau Ligitan and Pulau Sipadan case, Malaysia versus Indonesia. Indonesia also submitted a few of the activity as sovereign activities, but ICJ rejected all these as not valid. But as far as Malaysia is concerned, Malaysian submission was on the 3 points, 3 sovereign activities, 1, 2, 3. And ICJ decided that these activities include legislative, administrative, and quasi-judicial acts. So what are the 3 sovereign activities or effectivities submitted by Malaysia? Number 1, control over the taking of turtles and the collection of turtle eggs. This is allegedly the most important economic activity on Sipadan Island for many years. So this is mainly administrative act as well as quasi-judicial act. Number 2, the establishment in 1933 of a bird sanctuary on Sipadan Island. Okay, so this is by means of government law and gazette. So that's why the establishment of bird sanctuary is a legislative act. Number 3, controlling and maintaining of the lighthouses on Ligitan and Sipadan Islands constructed by the British. Later on, Malaysia succeeded. So that's why the Malaysian government, as successor of Britain, they control and maintain the lighthouses on both Ligitan and Sipadan Islands. So this is administrative act or executive act. So all these acts are recognized by the ICJ as sovereign activities or effectivities exercised by Malaysia, and that's why the court decided that the Pulau Ligitan and Pulau Sipadan belong to Malaysia. The next case, sovereignty over Pedra Branca versus Pulau Pedra Branca / Pulau Batu Putih. So Pedra Branca is actually the Dutch name. It's used by Singaporeans, and Pulau Batu Putih is the Malaysian name of the island. So the dispute is a very sensitive dispute between Malaysia and Singapore, and Singapore won the case because the ICJ decided that first, originally, the island was owned by the Sultan of Johor. The original sovereignty vested in the Sultan of Johor, Malaysia. But after the establishment of lighthouse in 1847, lighthouse or horse-bus lighthouse on the island, first the British and later on the Singapore, they maintained the lighthouse, and then they did a number of sovereign activities over the lighthouse and over the island, Pulau Batu Putih. So because of these sovereign activities exercised by Singapore, the originally Malaysian island has been transformed into Singaporean islands, because during that period, since 1847 up to the critical date, that is 1989, Malaysia did not make any protest at all over the Singaporean exercise of sovereign activities. This is all. That's therefore the doctrine of acquiescence also applied here. Okay, applied here. So let us look at the activities decided by ICJ. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There are 5 sovereign activities accepted by ICJ as Singaporean acts of effectivities. But for me, I do not accept number 3 and number 5. Out of the ICJ's 5 activities, I do not believe that number 3 and number 5 are really sovereign activities. But ICJ decided as such. So number 1, Singapore's investigations of shipwrecks near PBB. Okay. This investigation of shipwrecks is a judicial act. Number 2, Singapore's permissions granted or not granted to Malaysian officials in the context of any survey of the water surrounding the island. You can see how awkward was that. Malaysian officials, if they want to do any survey of the water surrounding the island, they must seek permission from the Singaporean government. If any Malaysian or even Malaysian officials, they want to go and visit the island, they want to get permission from the Singaporean government. So this is very obvious sovereign activity exercised by Singapore, and Malaysia acquiesced to that. Malaysia agreed to that, consented to that. Okay, consented to that. So that's why this is the administrative act or executive act. Number 3, the display of Singapore ensign on PBB. Ensign means Navy ensign. Navy ensign means the Navy flag on PBB. They hoist the Singaporean Navy flag on PBB. But I do not agree with this, the decision of the ICJ on that point, because if they display or they they fly the Singaporean national flag. This is a symbol of national flag, is the symbol of national sovereignty. But just navy and sign is not the symbol of national sovereignty. So for me, I do not agree with the ICJ decision on this point. Number 4, Singapore's installation of military communications equipment on the island. So this is also very obvious case of sovereign activity. Singapore installed military communication equipment on the island, but Malaysian government did not protest, did not make any objection to that. This is very clear sovereign activities or effectively exercised by Singapore. Number 5, proposed land reclamation by Singapore to extend the island. So this one is actually Singaporean government proposed, and they even advertised in the newspaper, Singaporean newspapers there, calling for the tenders. So, but later on, for fear of the Malaysian, repercussion from the Malaysian side, strong repercussion from the Malaysian side, they later on, they withdraw this, and they did not continue with this. So that is just proposed only, proposed land reclaiming. They want to reclaim land surrounding Petra Branca, Pulau Batu Putih, and they want to extend the island to become bigger and larger island. So this was just proposed land reclamation only, and later on withdrawn by the Singaporean government. So that's why I don't think so that this should be taken as valid effectivities exercised by the Singaporean government. But the 3, 1, 2, 4 are very clear, and 3 and 4 are doubtful and controversial, and for me, I do not accept. But anyway, ICJ decided that Malaysia owned the island originally, but later on, Singapore exercised these sovereign activities over Batu Putih for nearly 100 years, and there was no protest or no, objection at all from the Malaysian government. That's why the sovereign has been transferred from Malaysia to Singapore, and now Singapore owns the island. The next point is the degree of effectivity depends on nature of the territory and competing claim. So then, when answering a question, you have to be careful about that one. You have to look at the nature of the island or territory over which there is a dispute, whether it is developed territory, or it is thinly populated and unsettled territory, or whether it is totally uninhabited. Because the law is a bit different. So that's why now let us look at the two situations. The developed territory is very simple. But how about the thinly populated, unsettled territory? How much effectivities we have to prove? How much degree of effectivity we have to prove? So Eastern Greenland case. Very little. The tribunal has been satisfied with very little in the way of actual exercise of sovereign rights. They need only a little bit only of this display of sovereign activities only, unless the other state could not make out a superior claim, because the two states have to compete. There's the claims that which state has how many effectivities by state A, how many effectivities by state B, and they have to compete. So that's why unless the other state has no superior claim, state A, for example, can show a little bit only of sovereign activity. It is okay, and state A can win. Because if the territory is thinly populated, only a few peoples are there, and only native tribes are there, and unsettled territory or unsettled island, very far away, thinly populated islands, and only native tribes are there, then how can you expect so much of the sovereign activities there? The court will accept only a little bit of exercise of a display of sovereign activity. This will be enough for this situation. Okay, another one is Palmas Island case. The manifestations of sovereignty over a small and distant island inhabited only by natives cannot be expected to be frequent. This was another example case, thinly populated. So the next situation is totally uninhabited territory, which is very exceptional case. So in very often this type of situation can be in your provider type question. You have to be very careful about it. Look at the island, the nature of the island. If it is totally uninhabited, uninhabited means no people are on the island. Nobody is on the island. No man's land. No man's land. No people, no human beings are on the island. This is very exceptional cases. If the territory concerned is totally uninhabited, the court will take it as an exceptional case, and the proof of effective occupation will be much easier. And the leading case is